SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
On the 1st of January, the Brazil Bets market was launched, bringing South America's most populous and wealthiest economy into play for global gambling. Today's episode of iGaming Daily will review the nascent launch and rapid development of Brazil's betting market. Tech and strategic insights are provided by Chris Nikolopoulos, Chief Commercial Officer at Betby. Joining the panel is Ricardo Assis, Lead Editor of SBC Brazil, providing on-the-ground perspectives on global gambling's newest battleground. The iGaming Daily podcast is sponsored by Optimove, the #1 marketing and CRM solution for the global gambling industry. Hi, welcome. I'm Ted Menmuir, and if I can introduce Chris Nikolopoulos of Betby. Chris, how you doing?
Hi Ted, hi Ricardo. Good to be with you guys. I'm great. I think we'll have an interesting discussion about Brazil. I think the interest of all iGaming industry is in Brazil, not only now, but over the last years actually. And there's a lot of very, very interesting stuff we'll have to discuss today.
And joining Chris, we have our man in Sao Paulo, Ricardo Assis, SBC Noticias editor. Ricardo, how's things in Sao Paulo?
Hey Ted, hey Chris. Really nice to be here with you guys discussing this important matter. Everything is fine. The weather here is kind of good today, but yeah. So let's go for it.
Most of the time it's good in Brazil, right?
Yeah. We at least in this time of the year, it's sunny almost every day.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with kind of my Western view of what's going on in Sao Paulo and how we're reporting on it from SBC. And one thing that shouts out, it's that it's frantic since day one, non-stop. Chris, I'm going to go over to you. From kind of a commercial standpoint and from a strategic standpoint, is that necessarily a bad thing that there's a lot of market activity?
I think that, look, when we are talking about Brazil, we have to understand that the culture is a little bit different from the culture that we have in Europe, for example. Yeah. And for us in Betby, it is very, very important to understand this culture and to welcome this culture. And we can see this somehow playing a part also in the regulation, right? Yes, it was a little bit rushed. It was a little bit in a hurry, even if it was being discussed for years. Yeah. We all know that the list of operators were announced just a few days prior to the regulation, right? The list of the operators who actually got the license. Everything happened in a frantic way, as you said. But on the same time, providers like us who already were working in the market and were confident and sure that we will continue working in this market, we had already done, our homework, I can say. So we're ready. Due to the hard work that we had already done with our compliance team, our legal team, our product team, obviously, our account management team, and so on. As I understand, and what we know also from our partners in Brazil, we need to embrace the culture, the difference of the culture in Brazil. People in Brazil are full of emotions, and we can see that even the way they try to regulate something. So for us, we already knew what's... I can say we knew, but I can say that we have a lot of good understanding what to expect. And we were ready in time, and I don't think that it is a problem anymore. Of course, there are some things that will get normalized as time passing by, but we already see that things are getting better and better, and everyone right now knows more what to expect.
So moving on to you, Ricardo, can you provide kind of the observations of the player as the regulated bets market has come into play? I mean, what's the first reaction on the ground in Brazil?
So yeah, the regulation in Brazil, it's something that had to be done a long time ago, because the betting was legalized by Michel Temer in 2018 with a 2-year deadline for the regulation to be implemented, but the deadline was not met. The regulation just occurred in December 2023 and coming into effect now in January. As a result, the market operated for almost 6 years without regulation, without legal constraints. The market became flooded with sponsorships and advertisements, most of which came from betting companies that are now regulated. It's worth noting. However, some ads and influencers promoted betting platforms in less than ideal ways, promising earnings and claiming it was a way to supplement income, and this created a bad image for the industry in the country. But this began to change with the publication of new law ordinances and the launch of Annex X by the CONAR, which provided a clear definition of what can't and cannot be done in advertising. With the regulation in effect, we went from thousands of brands to only 56 companies in the first day. Today, we have 76, six of which have been authorized due to judicial decisions. In total, we have 170 brands currently eligible to operate in the country, and the government continues its effort to stop the illegal brands. Between the October and January, the Ministry of Finance has already requested the blocking of over 9,000 websites. So we're still in early stages, but I think the government is doing what's supposed to do in this beginning, and we'll have to wait and see a little bit more.
So, Ricardo, thanks. But again, I mean, so many kind of moving interplays in Brazil. And I'm going to bring it back to Chris. How do you kind of describe the condition of the Brazilian market moving? I mean, look, here we call it moving from grey to licensed. And how is that unique for the market itself? And how does that kind of change the strategic factors for incumbents at play?
I think that in Brazil right now, localization is the key. And not only in Brazil, but all these local markets, as we call it, you need to be able to understand the specifics of this particular market. And competition is hard, of course, and competition will continue to grow because now the legal framework in the market, it's an open invite for a lot of big operators and providers. And I think maybe we can touch this topic later on also to go to the market, right? So if we want to make a difference here, we need to understand how the local people think. What are the local events that, from a sports perspective, we need to cover? What are the local events that we need to promote? How we can cooperate with people from Brazil who understand the needs and the requirements, and how we can align on these requirements in order to provide a good experience. Because in the end, that's what we're all trying to do. That's why the regulation comes. That's why providers are there. That's why operators are there. Of course, it's a business, and in a business, everyone also looking for a profit. But in a legal market, we need to do that with respect to the end users. As Ricardo said before, the market was gray. There were a lot of problems. A lot of brands were promoting in a way that is questionable, let's say. Now these things should not happen anymore. From our side, we are trying to provide a very, very, very customized product. A product which can work, we're a B2B provider, right? So we're having one product, but it can be customized in multiple ways and so deeply that it can look like very different products from client to client, from operator to operator. And I think that's the key to succeed in a local market like that.
So I want to kind of bring it to you, Ricardo. And one of the things is the noise, the volume of the Brazilian market and its impact on the consumer. And yes, strategically we can talk about localization, but how aware is the consumer of changes that are being applied to the markets and of who's advertising to them and what's being communicated to them on the ground?
So the government is being really transparent about it. It's publishing in the official gazette every time a betting company receives a license. There's an official list of legal websites as well. Additionally, to make it easier for the users to identify the sites, it has been mandated that all licensed betting companies must use the internet domain .bet.br. This creates a clear visual distinction between licensed and illegal operators. So it's a really good thing that the government is doing to promote this. We're still in the early stage of the market, so I believe it's too soon to say whether this is having an effect or not. But I think the government are trying to do their best in this way. They're doing some campaigns as well. The companies are doing campaigns on TV about responsible gambling. So let's wait and see. There haven't been any initial studies published about the legal market yet. In this regard, I believe the government has been transparent with the public and is trying to guide them towards the licensed operator. But this is a period of adjustment, and I think we'll have to wait some time to see the effects of this campaign.
And just for SBC audiences, I mean, are you seeing any kind of big brands on TV, anyone making huge campaigns that are really shouting out their products?
Yeah, a lot. The advertising environment here in Brazil is really big, especially in football. I think it was 19 of the 20 clubs in the first division of Brazil are being sponsored by betting brands. So they are everywhere. Here in the streets that I live, near the stadium of Palmeiras, even the even the bars are sponsored by some operators. So we have loads of advertisement even in the streets, and on TV isn't different, because the main sponsors of the TV shows of the networks are now betting operators. We have like Estrela Bet, we have Bet Nacional, we have lots of companies doing really big campaigns in this early stages.
To supplement something here, sort to jump in, it's not only Serie A teams that are sponsored by operators. Almost the majority of Serie B as well is being sponsored by some operator right now, right? It's crazy. I haven't seen that in any other markets.
And most of them are main sponsors as well. It's not like a minor sponsor. I think in Serie A it's 15 or 16 of the 20 clubs have main sponsors of betting. So
that's
crazy.
Wild.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
And yeah, I mean, Chris, you accept the conditions, you accept kind of the role that you've been given. But from a strategic standpoint, I mean, how do you do an effective launch for a market in which you have 91 competitors going, trying to find their market share? That sounds frightening to me.
It's not frightening. It's something that you should consider. And to be honest, competition makes everyone better. I think that generally, when we are talking about a market that gets regulated and a market that has this huge potential like Brazil, everyone will try to get a piece of the pie. But in the market today, there are every type of solutions. First of all, not all these competitors, and I don't want to speak about bad or good about competition, that's not the point here, but not everyone's on the same level. And I think for operators in Brazil and for end users also in Brazil, this is obvious. And that's why some softwares are being rewarded, let's say, and some others not so much. Personally, I think that when a market gets regulated, in the beginning, there will always be some friction, and depends on how government will deal with it as well, because if end users have opportunity to go to some black operators, let's call them like that, if they offer them, let's say, better conditions because they avoid paying taxes or anything like that, maybe end users will do it. So it is very important to see what the government will do and how strict the framework will be. And I agree with Ricardo because he said that it's being taken care. We see that also. Of course, there are still steps to be made, but time's needed here. Personally, I think that in our industry, in the coming 5-10 years, and this is not only for Brazil, but includes Brazil, I think that there will be 10 big groups owning more or less the whole market. We see a lot of acquisitions in our industry. Big companies acquire smaller companies, and of course, they let them keep doing their own operations, have their own branding or whatever, it doesn't matter, but they still belong to some bigger groups. So when you say about 90 competitors or whatever, in reality, it's not that many. It is pure than that. There are a lot of synergies between these people, I can say. And in the end, product superiority always wins. If you have a good product, if you have a product that can understand the local needs and it can be customized to meet the needs of the local people, this is how you are going to win. In Betby, that's what we do. We focus on sports. We offer software that can be customized very much. We have a huge trading team right now that allows us to create every day numerous events only for Brazilian markets. We are covering content that no one else can cover. I'm not talking for the main things. I'm not talking for Serie A, Serie B, and things like that. We are talking for even some regional competitions that you would be super surprised to see that they exist, but they do exist. And as I said, product superiority and local understanding, together with some people on the ground in the market, is the key to success.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of pull you back on what you said and your efforts of customization and localization. Now, we come back from ICE, and these are words that are kind of in the lexicon of the industry at the moment across developing markets. But doesn't any form of localization or customization, I mean, the fact that you said, you need to go above Serie A and Serie B, of course, resources needed. But these are big bets taken by technology. I mean, can they all succeed? And what are kind of the hurdles to gain true localization?
When we're talking about sportsbook software, which is, let's say, what we do, we're talking about some of the most complex IT systems in the world. I think sports betting and banking may be the most complete and hard-to-build software systems in the world, because we're talking about unlimited number of transactions. We're talking a lot of dynamic content with the odds, which are talking hundreds of thousands of events, which the odds, there will be hundreds of markets per event, and the odds are changing all day, we're talking about settlements, transactions, flows, and a lot of things. So not everyone can do it. And in order to build a good sportsbook, you need years and you need a lot of experience. Luckily, in Betby, we are having a very, very good team. We're already 6 years in the market. So when the regulating happened, we already had a very mature product, but at the same time, modern enough. So we are not some kind of old dinosaur from the early 2000s, like some competitors which are on the market. So we have a modern software, but still mature enough. And then it's about expertise of the people. You need a good combination of young, hungry professionals with some more experienced people. And that's what we do. We hire people in Brazilian people who can direct us. Generally, we are trying to think as an operator and as a local operator. You cannot have the same product working successfully in all the world. B2B market is a bit complicated because for a lot of providers, it is not so easy to customize. And it is not only about software, it is also about the operations. Imagine you have a software that you want to work in Brazil, but then with the same software to be able to work in UK. There are many differences, cultural differences about the content, a lot of things. So you need to be able to split in business units and to target each specific local market with a particular business unit. That's what we are doing, and so far have been successful for us.
Yes, it's a hard, and I agree with that. I mean, it's a hard task. And Ricardo, how important do you view kind of year one? And Chris, you can get involved in this question too. And what's the importance for kind of incumbents coming into the Brazilian market? I mean, what are they trying to establish in the first year of play within that market? Ricardo?
Well, I think they're trying to get their share of the market. I think this is something that the companies that are operating for a long time have heads-on this aspect. I think this, being the early stage of the regulated market, we still have a little number that is reduced of players. So the companies that are here before, they have advantage. I think the trend over the years, it's the same. I think, in my opinion, I have the same vision as Chris. I think a few operators will dominate a large portion of the market. This is something that happens in a lot of major mature markets. So I think this is the time for the operators to carve the space, to really go for it, because this is the time that's going to set the trend for the later years to come. I think some of the companies that are based here in Brazil, with more people that they have more expertise here in the market, have some some advantage, but I think it's hard to compete with the money of the global operators. So they have they have an advantage in a point and they are in disadvantage in others. So it's a term of balance.
So, Chris, is it a question of go big or go home in Brazil?
In a way, yes, I agree. Because, look, if you want to... First of all, there are a lot of competitors, as you said. Yeah, the market is crowded. And that has some effects. The acquisition costs are growing. Actually, they are like super high, not just high in Brazil, and one of the highest all over the world right now. And it becomes already questionable for a new operator to enter the market, even if they have unlimited money to burn in order to acquire players. So the acquisition costs are growing a lot. The brand visibility will become tougher and tougher and tougher because, as we were discussing before, there are not already the good slots for marketing are taken. And the big operators are not going to let them down. Profits are going to shrink a little bit because in a regulated market, you have taxes, there are certain things that you have to do. And so operators will have to be ready to realize that the profits will shrink. In a way, if you want to succeed in this market nowadays, as you said, go big or go home. Because if you reach this certain economy of scale, then obviously there is a lot of opportunity. But if you cannot reach that point, it is very hard.
Yeah. Also, in the terms of advertisement, we are seeing in the Brazilian market some really big teams of football ripping off their contracts with some operators to sign other contracts that are more valuable. There are teams like ripping contracts that they were like getting 20 million to sign new contracts, getting 40 million. So everything is inflated here in Brazil regarding this market.
So I'm bringing up to my final two questions. I'm going to start with, in 2025, what is your kind of nugget of information regarding Brazil? I mean, what do you want to tell audiences, our audiences who are kind of invested in the market, about what they're going to find out pretty quickly about the bets in Brazil in general? Ricardo, I'll start with you.
I think the market is expected to grow even more in this first year because now we have the regulation in place. I think it's going to grow even bigger. It's already one of the biggest markets in the world, and I think now with strict regulation and more eyes on it, it tends to go even bigger and to grow bigger in a more sustainable way that was doing before. So I think in a way, the persons that are the companies and the people that are willing to enter this market, as Chris has pointed out, and even you has pointed out, have to think to go big because this is a big country with big opportunities, and if you don't have the money and the capacity to invest, you are not going to survive a long amount of time here.
Yeah, I agree. Brazil is already one of the biggest, it's already in the top 10 of regulated online gambling markets by GGR already now, as we speak. And the projections show that it can almost double by 2028. So it will continue growing. And we are talking for a market in size of billions of dollars. Yeah, it's a huge market, one of the biggest in the world. Generally, I think that let's say, the ultimate size and scale of Brazil's regulated market depends on a lot of factors, which right now are a little bit unknown. And this includes, of course, the number of licenses. Already we know that, but we need to see if there will be any more. Depends also on the effectiveness of enforcement, let's say, mechanisms against offshore operators or black operators, or how you want to call it. Depends also on payment methods and a lot of other things, but generally we get back at what we discussed previously with the right software, the right people, and the right investment. Brazil is still a huge opportunity. And at this point, I want to say something in general. For a lot of operators, for a lot of providers, and even for end users, there is, I see that because I'm working in iGaming for the last 15 years, and I see that for a lot of operators, providers, and end users, when the market gets regulated, there is a little bit of a fear fear about the unknown. But we should all welcome the regulation. If we want to have a future in this industry, and if we want this industry to have a future and not to be seen as something on the side, something strange, and something that we are not so sure if we want to work on, we need to embrace regulation. We need to welcome it, and we need to understand that we need to take care of end users with responsible gambling, and provide this legal framework for operators and providers to work as they should.
Just one thing also that I forgot to talk, it's about the role of the regulator, because we need the regulator to not change a lot of things now in the first years, because we are seeing a lot of proposed bills that are kind of creates uncertainty. We had people proposing the ban of advertisement and sponsorships, or the banning of the secondary market altogether, to ban all the types of props bets. So this type of things would hurt a lot of the legal market, and we just hope that the regulators don't do that, because this would have like a huge negative impact in the market.
So just to conclude, and just review our questions that we asked and what we touched upon, I mean, do you two just think that it's a case of embracing kind of the franticness and the madness of the market and where it is right now? Chris, please start us off.
As we said, that, and as I also said before, we will need to be able to embrace the regulation, and we will need to understand that ensuring a responsible gambling environment is good for everyone, good for the end user, good for the operator, good for the provider, and even good for the affiliates or other side parts of the businesses like payments and so on, and other types of software. As I said before, being in this market for a long time, I realize that I see the fear in the eyes of a lot of operators, providers, and so on when a market gets regulated, but it shouldn't be like that. The whole world is changing. iGaming is not like it was 10 or 15 years ago. I think both of you maybe remember that it was a very different landscape. We need to evolve together with the market, and there's nothing wrong with that. We should focus on product superiority. We should focus on listening the needs of the operators from our side as a provider, and we're confident that we will continue having a strong presence in the market like we do the last years and so on.
Well, Ricardo, Chris, thanks so much. It's been very insightful to talk to you. This is Ted Menmuir from SBC, and this is iGaming Daily signing out. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network, or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.